Hi, hello. So, the Amazing Digital Circus, it's done. It's over with. And I think it's been a good enough amount of time after the finale for me to talk about it. This isn't a theory video or a deep dive or anything. It's just what we got is what we got. And so I want to talk about feelings about how it went down. Yeah. So, as a whole, being a part of a program and being at the mercy of an AI, at least at the beginning, that sounds like hell. That sounds absolutely awful. Like, no wonder people abstracted because of that. Kaufmo, I understand. So, I like the overall concept of the Amazing Digital Circus. I think that the whole thing of finding meaning in a meaningless existence is pretty meaningful because especially how capitalism is and how life is. It's like you're expected or you really are driven to do certain things just to live, and it feels meaningless. So having something that can be a little nugget of hope is nice in trying times such as these. I thought that it was also pretty meaningful to have none of them be able to choose their avatars, their bodies or their names. And I think that was probably the first kind of hint at this being about the trans experience because, I mean, none of us can choose our bodies, just people in general, but it's even harder when you're trans. And I think that it's even sadder when you can't even choose your own name, and especially when it's someone like Jax choosing your name. It's not you being in the driver's seat of your own kind of existence. It's just everything being chosen for you, and then you just have to go with it. They kind of got this blank slate, and even though they do have a mind file that they're based off of, they're still able to build off of that and become who they want to be. They just didn't know that they could yet. It's kind of like your purpose doesn't exist until you give yourself one. And if you're not able to step outside of yourself, I do think one line that Jack said was actually true, where after a while you kind of fall into stereotypes like Zubul is this, Ragatha is this, Jax is this, and I think that that's kind of like a survival technique where people just kind of become a flimsy version of themselves because they don't have any outside influences in order to grow. They're just kind of there. They just kind of exist, and then they when they're not just trying to survive out of all of these adventures that Kane gives them, um, they grow from this foundational existence that they were copied from. So back to the whole concept of the circus being hell. Kane is pretty much the devil in this sense, and it's only hell because of how he shaped the world. He didn't understand how to give them what they needed. He just gave them something to keep them preoccupied, and it was basically torture at times. But they didn't realize that they could create their own heaven while they were there until the very end, and that they can create heaven within the connections that they make with each other. So one of the gripes that I have with the show is that I don't understand how none of them talked to each other until Pomni showed up. It's I'm not saying that they have to spill their whole life story or anything, but you guys were around each other for a while, and I know that there's time in between the adventures that Kang gives them. So were you guys just staring at a wall until then? You didn't talk about anything on the outside or any kind of memories or I just nothing until Pomni showed up. I don't understand that. I think now I want to talk about each individual character and just my thoughts on them, starting with Gummy Goo. Him being an NPC and then becoming sentient, it feels again, how it is to be in this kind of society where there's a role that you're expected to play, and then once you finally look at the grand scheme of things, you're like, am I even real? What am I doing here? Because, like, when just me thinking about this, when I'm at work, I'm playing a role, and like I'm practically dissociating through it. So one of the quotes was like, "We're just created to be obstacles, and you can choose to be somebody real."
You still care about your buddies up there, don't you? I'm sure they still care about you.
What does it matter? What do we have when you people leave? We're just obstacles, created to be defeated and forgotten.
Sometimes it feels like we're just obstacles in people's lives, or we're just side characters or NPCs, and we can choose not to be that way. You decide to live outside the confines of what you're designed for, and it can be taken away from you at any time. If you're in a situation long enough, you're eventually able to figure out um that you're still alive and that you still have options and that you can grow and do things. So you don't have to be an NPC. Okay, first I want to talk about Kaufmo. Um, really chill guy. I think that he's a likable character. I would probably be friends with him if he was a real person. I think that he could have been a Pomni because of how his personality was. Like, it was easier for him to interact with everyone, but he wasn't like as empathetic in that sense, at least from what I've seen. I don't know because he wasn't really built off of. But he just seemed like the kind of person that everybody would get along with. And the kind of running, I don't know if it was like a gag or just like something that happened, but everybody being sad because um they didn't laugh at his jokes and he was already gone, so like they couldn't laugh at his jokes even if they wanted to. um it feels, I don't know, I guess like one dimensional because like he's a clown laughing at jokes. I don't know. I wish that they had more to say about him besides, oh, he's crazy because he was trying to find an exit and I should have laughed at his jokes. I don't know. I like him, so I just wish there was more of him. And I wonder if the door that he was talking about was the same one that Pomni saw. And Kane already talked about it in the show, saying, well, I made one because everybody was talking about it, but I didn't know where to have it lead to. If I want to read into this, I could make this be a representation of, well, someone can give you an option of something to do, but you have to find the way out. They can give you an exit door, but where does it go, you know? It might not even have that kind of deep of a meaning. If you're trying to get out of your situation, you're the one that has to do it. But in this situation, you can't even get out, so I guess that's not really the meaning that you're supposed to get from it. You're just here and you gotta make the best of it, I guess. I think next I want to go back to Kane. He's all mouth, no ears. This dude does not listen. At least for a good majority of it. He literally has no concept of human feelings, and this is why I give him some leeway whenever he is a little intense. He's pretty self-centered because he wasn't really made to care. His whole purpose was just to entertain and like give everybody something to do within the circus, and he just wants to be appreciated for it. He so desperately wanted that appreciation that he consumed the blue AI. And for one, I think the blue AI is Bubble. I saw this theory somewhere, but it made sense after watching the finale and like when he was deleted and then he came back after he took it out because Bubble didn't come back. He wanted so desperately to do what he was made to do after they put him in these confines, and I think that that's probably the most human an AI can get because he was just desperate to do what he was meant for and to be appreciated for it. he's in control of everything in the bounds of the program, and he knows about the company, and he wants to know more about it. Like, he's always keeping those little pictures so that, I don't know, it's like a way to just hold on to this little shred of information. And I think he was, I don't know, he think he's more human than he gives himself credit for. He just wasn't as empathetic as humans are usually. I don't know. I think the more that I'm talking about him, the more I kind of relate to him. I didn't realize this. He's just actually wanting a family, and he just went about it the wrong way. He wanted to help Scratch with the situation with his head, and he ended up abstracting him. But another gripe I have is that we don't really get that information directly. I think that's something that somebody said online, or that Gooseworks said online. I wish that was shown or said somehow in the show, but I guess that just didn't happen. He genuinely wanted everyone to be at their best and to give them what he could. But because he was hungry for information and hungry for power to be able to do the things that he thought that he was made for, it it wasn't the blue AI that made him evil or overbearing or whatever. It was his processing of that extra power. I don't think that he was built to handle it, so it just drove him over the edge. I don't think that he's actually like bad or anything. I have even less to say about Pomni, which sucks because she's the main character. She's just a clown, both in a visual sense and in the actual sense, because she was constantly on Jax and trying to help him change. She is the catalyst of change within the show, because nobody else wanted to talk during the before she even came there, I guess. They were just stuck. They were stuck, and then they kind of spiraled without her. She was just kind of like that grounding force for everyone, except for Kinger. Kinger is his own kind of foundation. He had to be. She tries her best to get to know everyone and to help out, but she can't really help herself. I feel like Kinger does that for her, and Ragatha in a sense, but off screen. Another gripe I have: why couldn't I see them talk? I love Ragatha, and I wish that they had just. I wanted more Ragatha. The only thing that is really said about Pomni is that she was kind of bored in her life, and she like explored abandoned buildings, but um with her posting them online, it wasn't because she wanted to go viral or anything. It was just something that she enjoyed. Wish that, wish that there was more. Basically, Pomni was kind of wasted potential, and I wish I knew more about her. And I wish she interacted with the general group more often instead of just Jax and Kinger. That was it. She's pretty flat. So Ragatha, my girl, my I love her. She's a doll that gets beat up a lot, and I have a soft spot in my heart for Ragatha. She has like a small backstory like Pomni does, and it's basically her mom was overbearing, and she was I'm assuming emotionally abused, and that's kind of all we get. She was in a fairly wealthy family. She had animals. She liked horses. That's it. she's the kind of person like Kane that just wants to be loved. And I think a really cute moment was when she was admiring the Goinks' mom for naming her kids because that showed that she cared. Um, she misses her horses. That was kind of like a hint at the situation with her mom and like how she wishes that she had a mom like the Goinks. Because she didn't get that. She didn't get someone that cared. So, because she didn't get what she wanted, or get what she needed in like a familial sense, her coping mechanism was to give herself away and be this happy, cheerful person that everyone can reach out to. But she did that until she was like hollow inside. And it didn't really help anyone because everyone else thought that she was faking it. Just like me, for real. I think that Ragatha's kind of um, coping mechanism was the best that she could do in the situation. She just really wanted friends. She just really wanted to be understood and cared for. And I wish that she got that. I wish that all the other people in the circus at least tried to understand her, reach out to her, besides Pomni and Kinger, because they could have all been friends, but nobody nobody really wanted to interact with her. I don't understand why. Like, oh, I don't know if she's genuine, so get to know her. So get to know her. She's not like a manipulator or anything. She's just really nice and doesn't know how to show negative emotions. How is that enough to put you off on her? And a scene that really irritated me was how Pomni and well the whole crew was doing the baseball game. And Pomni is the kind of person that's always reaching out to Dax and trying to understand him and trying to be there for him. And so, say hello to the kitty cat. Say hello. Say hello. So, Pomni said to her, it's okay to show negative emotions. And the second that she showed negative emotions and she was trying to communicate to Jax that she didn't appreciate how he was being, everybody looked at her like she was crazy. Like, Jax looked at her like she was crazy. Pomni looked at her like she was crazy, even though Pomni was the one that gave her advice to finally be able to show emotion that wasn't just being happy-go-lucky. I guess being angry isn't really a negative emotion. I consider it more like just an expression, but it's what you do with it that matters. But like the way that they looked at her in that moment, it's just like, oh my gosh. It's like she can't be happy and she can't show any kind of negativity, any kind of sad emotion, any kind of angry emotion. Like she can't win. It's like, gosh, it irritates me so much because that is why she has this coping mechanism to be happy all the time and to act like there's no issues. Because people like that react to her all the time. That's ridiculous. When Ragatha came up and apologized to her, and then Pomni was like thinking about something else, Ragatha was trying to brush it under the rug, even though she was obviously hurt by it, and Pomni didn't even do anything about that. I don't think that Pomni actually cared about Ragatha until for some reason at the very end, and Ragatha deserves better. Justice for Ragatha. I know that the show kind of has the opinion going around that it's misogynistic because of how they treat some of the women in the show, and sometimes I kind of agree with it because of this scene and because of Jax, which I'll get to later. Like, I wouldn't say that it's like entirely misogynistic and you shouldn't watch it or anything, but I do think that there are some kind of unsaid things, like most of the characters being underwritten, especially the main character Pomni, who is a woman we barely know anything about, and how Ragatha gets treated like she's this awful thing for being fake happy and for ranting sometimes and then forced to kind of hold that in because nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to be there for her. Nobody thinks that she should be upset in any way. Like she can't be happy and she can't be upset. I don't understand. I don't understand. And when there was the burger place, Spudsy's, when Gangle was the manager and talking about how Ragatha's positivity, they like nobody really believes it because it's not real. That makes me sad because I think she wants it to be real and she wants that validation from being received in a positive light. Her mom was probably exactly like how they were treating her, making her feel like she can't say or do anything bad, so that's why she has this happy face all the time. She's pretty much the opposite side of the coin of Jax, and in the sense of the mommy issues, and I enjoy her more because she deals with it in a more real way and nobody else gives her credit for it, and I think that's it's sad but it's also admirable. She forces Jax to confront himself and he hates her for it, when that I think that's really what he needed. He needed Ragatha to not be so happy-go-lucky and to kind of confront him more often, like more like Zubul would, because he was being coddled so much by Pomni. Okay, that's all I gotta say on that. That was like 20 minutes for Agatha. So, on to Kinger. That's my guy. That's my king. He's the one that knew most about the company. He was very caring to everyone. His speech in episode 3 hit hard. I love that guy. What I kind of got from him in that episode was like, life may be pointless, but the people that you're with and the memories that you make are the most important, and that gives you purpose. And I feel like that's the most human thing about being human. Your memories and the impact that you have on people, your connections, which is kind of like a whole theme in this show, I would say. And the quote of the worst thing you can do is to make someone feel like they don't matter hits hard. Jax does this multiple times, but we'll get to that later. It's important to be able to have those connections and to try to understand people because that's really all we have. I think Kinger, besides Pomni, is the one that really drives everyone's growth. He's really smart and he nurtures his relationships instead of. What are they bright? He's really smart and he nurtures his relationships. And he's a really healthy dude given the circumstances of what's going on. And I don't understand how none of them knew that he like unspirals after he's in the dark for a little bit. There had to be some instances where they were all in the dark together, and I don't know. They don't even talk to each other, so I guess that didn't happen anyway. They didn't really exist until Pomni showed up. I have to give him so much credit though, with dealing with everything that he went through, losing his wife, losing his coworker, losing pretty much everyone up until like another batch of the crew came in, because that is traumatic. And he just kind of coped with that by not existing, which is crazy. I wish that Kinger got more screen time to like show more about him dealing with everyone, abstracting everyone that was important to him. But it was kind of just like a flashback and then him talking about it a little bit and then that was it. Which is fine, because I mean, I guess you still kind of get the gist of it. It showed how jarring it was, at least. I just wanted to see more because I like him. And I wish that we knew more about the company. Like, I guess he would know more about the brain scans and why they were doing it. But I thought that he would be like a stepping stone into understanding that more. I don't have much to say about Kinger other than I love him and wanted to see more of him, other than just being the guy that gives somebody a speech and then that's it. Not to say the speeches were bad. Speeches were great. Just wanted a little more dimension to him. Okay, Zubul. I don't have much to say about Zubul because there isn't really much from Zubul. Zubul is obviously dysphoric. They don't really like themselves. They're more pessimistic for most of the show. And I at least like how they carry that theme because like they were trying to Kane was trying to give Zubul different parts so that they can finally be happy with themselves. And that was considerate of him. I wish that I could like Zubul more. Like I don't dislike Zubul. I'm glad that Zubul like calls out Jax more often than anybody else. And I wish that there was just more other than just finding out that they were a bartender. I just want more. I just want more from everyone from all of this. I feel like I had something else to say. Oh, back to Ragatha. In the bar, when Ragatha was opening up about her trauma and her situation with her mom, um, why did everyone look like she was crazy? Why did everyone look like, oh girl, why did you say that? Why did you overshare? This is the only deep thing that we get from her. And you guys are just completely dismissing her. And I feel so bad for her. She just deserves better people around her. No wonder she's happy go lucky all the time. Y'all are awful. Y'all are just awful. Like, you guys should understand how hard things are. You're just. Okay. There was one quote that I wanted to point out that was between Zubul and Gangle, where Gangle says, how are you supposed to like the part of you that makes you worse than everyone else? And Zubul says, because it exists. It's a part of you that's real, and the only you should care about is the real you. That's pretty profound. I think that's really great advice, and I feel like Zubul could have benefited from their own advice. Yeah. Why can't y'all accept for Agatha though? Moving on to Gangle. Gangle is a fragile and thin piece of ribbon and puts on a show to cope, which is why she should understand Ragatha, but I guess not. Anyway, in the Spudsy episode where she was basically saying that she gave up on her dreams during that uh correctioning video for Jax, that made me think of myself. Being an artist is difficult, and she just didn't think she was going anywhere. And I think her fast food management job gave her a sense of control and purpose because she just she didn't think she could do what she wanted, and it was even worse when her coworkers didn't like her. Yeah, I like Angle. Um I'm assuming that her accident whenever she stepped in front of the truck during that episode was a mirror to the accident in real life. Except I think the one in real life was done on purpose. Could be wrong. I don't know for sure. I don't know if it was said. It probably wasn't. I watched the show twice, and I don't know. It should have been longer. I'll get to that later. Anyway, back to Gangle. I think I think it's cool how they made her masks like a coping mechanism to try to be someone else and be portrayed how she wanted to be, like to be more confident or more likable. And um the regular one makes me assume that she's more depressed, and don't know why. Maybe she just is. We don't really get told much of a backstory other than she's an artist and worked at a fast food place. Now for the one that was basically the whole show. Jax, a rabbit, always running from responsibility and herself. I'm gonna use he, him, and she, her for Jax because she's a trans femme person, trans woman. I want to preface to say in the beginning of the show, I thought that Jax was enjoyable. Even though he was a bully, it was still done in a mostly lighthearted way until it just kept going and going and getting worse and worse. And then I just, after the backstory with Rivet, I just completely hated her. Completely hated her. With no room for liking at all. I think that Jax caused pain and hijinks as a form of release and for just having fun. Um, there are some opinions about Jax bullying Gangle and teasing everyone and putting everyone down because she was um, jealous of them. Like, I guess it could be an experience of being a trans woman, of being jealous of cis women and kind of lashing out because of it. It doesn't justify it, but I guess it could be a explanation for it. It's just not cool. Like, it's not their fault that they're women. It's not their fault that you're not able to accept that you're also a woman. I just think people like that are dumb. I just think it's a really dumb thing to do. It's just dumb. You're putting this on yourself and you're making everybody uncomfortable or upset or even worse, traumatized if you go far enough. Because of you. It's just dumb. Like, boo hoo. Come on. They're the most accepting kind of group. They're all queer in some way. Except for Kinger. I'm pretty sure he's straight. So, why can't you just chill? I think that Jax had this kind of mindset of if you don't take things too serious, they won't affect you. And he was thinking of everyone as kind of part of a game, I guess. And I don't know, that's his way of coping. Everybody else has their ways of coping. Um, which I think was fine until he was just flat out just bullying them. There's a difference between her being silly and funny and poking at people and teasing versus just being an asshole. I think that it wasn't even done in a good way either. I would say that Jax is like Kane. Like, she tortures everyone and is self centered and knows that it affects them, which is actually worse than Kane because Kane doesn't really understand what he's doing because he's not a person. And he learned from it. Kane learned from it after being deleted. And Jax just didn't care to change. If that's what you want, sure, but I think that everyone gave her so much grace and so much care and tried to include her all the time, especially Pomni. And she just threw it back in everybody's faces. And that is despicable. I don't understand why everyone kept giving him chances. Like, after a certain point, you have to be fed up with it. But no, everybody's just like, oh yeah, you're a part of the group, we care about you. Unless you're Ragatha. If you're Ragatha, you can just die in a hole. I think this show is a tiny bit misogynistic, a tiny bit of an abuse enabling. It really just because they keep trying to include her and accept her without trying to hold her accountable and making her kind of just apologize in any kind of way. It's like, even if you abuse everyone around you, you'll still be welcomed with open arms because women are expected to forgive you. All the women are just gonna forgive you. All the women, the non-binary person and the man, everybody's just gonna forgive you, even though you didn't even offer to try to be forgiven. Proximity means family eventually, I guess, even if you're horrible to all of them. Specifically, the scene where they figure out that they're brain scans. And Jax looks at everybody and they're like, well, I guess that means you guys can go back to your lives. He's like, Ragatha, I guess you can hang out with mommy. And he's just so heartless in that scene. And really kicking people down when they're hurt is something that she does best. And she does it multiple times throughout the show, and especially during that part. And I understand that you're hurt, but doing that just seems unforgivable to me because you guys went through so much and you still haven't felt any ounce of empathy for any of them after all of this. I truly do not understand it. I don't care that it's a coping mechanism. I don't care that it's a result of her trauma. I just don't care. I don't care. You have to be the bigger person outside of that. That's like an 8-year-old response to all of that. You isn't she like 20 something? Like you have to understand at that point, even a little. Like having your little panic attacks by yourself shows that you have some kind of understanding of what you're doing, and you just don't do anything from it, which irritates me. It irritates me so much. You're just an irritating character, Jax. Jax pointing out the disbelief that Gangle could be happy because of her comedy mask was broken and that Zubul can fix her. I think that was kind of like projecting. I think Jax projects a lot. He thinks Ragatha is fake because her saying that she cares loses meaning when you say it too often. I understand that you came from a place where people don't really show that they care, but like after a while you gotta at least kind of put some thought to it, you know? I guess not. I guess not. I think he thinks everybody's fake and everybody's trying to get to him and everybody's, oh, poor me, poor me. He's very, 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 very self centered and only thinks about himself in every situation. And I understand that with Ragatha, he wants her to be more open and be more show more anger and sadness because they're stuck and there's no point in acting like everything is okay. But Ragatha is like, we're stuck, so why should we be mean? And I think that's the only thing that I can really relate to with Jax is like she's more real. Like she's probably the first to point out when something isn't right, but she goes about it in a horrible way half the time. Most of the time. I think Ragatha is the opposite of Jax. Like I said earlier, like they're both sides of the same coin, but he's more self-centered, oh me, oh me, oh my. I think it's ironic how she has all the keys, but she couldn't really get her out of the place that she locked herself in, like in her head. And that's why I started to relate to her, because she's doing all of this to herself and she's unable to get out of it. But self centeredness just really ticked me off, so I just stopped relating to her. I think that it was cool how they did the abstraction scenes. Like when Jack started abstracting in episode 7, she was seeing Kaufmo and Ribbit and like the little wavy things. I thought that was a nice touch. But yeah, I think it shows how it feels like whenever you're dying or whenever you're um, thinking about healing yourself. Um, you start seeing the things that mean most to you. Jax's remorse is very subtle. Um, Sometimes he's caught by Pomni drifting off and kind of switching between that mask, and he'll usually leave to have his breakdowns, but when he held up the gun to his head that Pomni was holding, I noticed that his hands were shaking because, of course, he didn't really want that. I thought that that was a nice touch and it really made him a bit more human to me.
Do it.
If I shoot you right now, are we still gonna be friends afterwards?
We were never friends.
I do think Jax is a bit of a misogynist. I think it's internalized misogyny. Oh no. Oh no. I'm popping it. And especially what he did to Ribbit. Just just completely disregarding women's feelings. Rakatha, Gangle, Ribbit. It's it's just bad. It's just bad. You're not beating the allegations. I think Jax being trans is probably what saved her as a character. It gives some kind of depth and reasoning for why she acts how she does, but it doesn't do enough, in my opinion. I understand that she's a woman and she doesn't accept it, so she lashes out at the women in the circus and everybody else that displays feminine attributes, quote unquote, which like being emotionally vulnerable and things like that. Because oh no, no one can see that I'm a woman. I personally don't like that trope of making trans women that type of person to harass cis women and to aggressively flirt with someone because they don't want it. I'm talking about the Gangle scene because it's a harmful stereotype. And I think that if you're gonna do something like that, it needs to be done in a better way. I think having that be more well rounded would make her seem more human instead of just an awful person. I think if you really wanted a person who had trauma and was trying to grow from it, but was also just an awful person and was still relatable and entertaining, Bojack Horseman is a very, very, very good example. I love Bojack Horseman. I think Jax is pretty much Bojack, but with less development. I thought the backstory was done really well and it really gave some insight in why she is the way she is. And it still didn't give me enough humanity for her because some of it was vague, like the talk. Like it's all very it depends on commentary and I don't think you need to be force fed things in order to actually understand a show or anything, but it's it just needed more. It just needed more for me. I think that Bojack and Jax have a similar personality and they do things and they feel bad about it. I think that they are both very self centered. They have problems with intimacy and being vulnerable in a genuine way. They're unable to look outside of themselves. The difference is that with Bojack, I felt something for him when he'd mess up and try to do better and then fall again. Because he was genuinely trying. And I'm not saying that you have to like constantly work to be a better person. I just think you need to show some kind of empathy. I just think that it's much more entertaining to 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 try in some kind of way. Like pausing from this, um if you ever seen the Penguin, Penguin is a good example of a type of character who just doesn't care. But he's more well rounded. He did care at one point. He did have some humanity to him, and then he had to cut that off in order to be like the top dog. That is interesting. If you're just somebody who doesn't care, who doesn't want to care, who doesn't want to develop in any kind of way, there's just no development. That's the thing. There's no development. He was just the way he was. Jax was the way he was the entire way, and then you get a backstory for why he's so awful, and then and then that was it. With Bojack, he would try to do better, he would fall down, and he would get back up again. And it showed that he had empathy for himself and the people that he affected. You get these well rounded side characters and a backstory for why he is the way he is, and a storyline where he fumbles, but it's obvious that he's trying. And it's obvious that when he doesn't try, he regrets it. Or he is just going through it in some kind of way. We don't get well rounded side characters in the Amazing Digital Circus. We get one liners for backstory and then the same kind of interaction over and over again. And then maybe some lightheartedness and then that's it. Maybe something deep and then that's it. Like I've watched BoJack Horseman at least 3 times in its entirety, and I relate to BoJack for most of the show. And then to watch him fall from grace reminds me that I need to be better than him. That is a great tragic character. Jax is not a great tragic character to me. He does not do that for me. And the scenes with Ribbit And when Pomni went through the abstractions and all of that together was a very condensed way of showing a tragic character. I think the line at the very end when Pomni was hugging him, where she was saying, "You're not supposed to love me," I feel like that line was supposed to hit me hard. Because that mask finally came off, and she was finally opening up in some way, and it just didn't hit me. It just didn't hit me at all. Like, I was honestly happy to see her abstract, because there was no any kind of empathy or any kind of wanting to grow in any kind of way. And then it was just too late. I think that it would have been more tragic if she had shown some kind of care for someone, some kind of growth in some kind of way towards anybody in the circus, but she didn't. I didn't see a rabbit going through mental torment over his past and using an unhealthy coping mechanism that he's trying to shake. And that's what I needed. That's what I needed in order to actually understand. I know that some people just want a villain, but I want an asshole who cares. I want someone who gives a shit, but sometimes just doesn't know how to. And it's not that Jax was mean. I enjoyed that Jax poked at people and made jokes, and there were certain lines that were crossed, and he just didn't show any remorse towards people. I need him to be human. I need him to try to be understanding, even if it's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, even if it's just a look. Even if it's a look that someone notices. I need it to be some kind of interaction, not just internal only to himself. Because otherwise, it's like that scene with Bojack and Todd, where Todd is like, "It's just you. You need to do better." Because I can't feel bad for you if you're doing all this to yourself and then feeling bad about yourself for it. And I don't care that she's mean. I hate her because she only gets these private moments of having real emotion without it getting developed until the very, very end. She just needed more time, and everything was just very rushed. And despite having all the support in the world, she doesn't seem human until the very end. And even with that, I don't think of her as a tragic character. I think of her as a burden to the rest of the cast. It feels very flimsy to write a character like this and then have all these characters around her still like her for no reason. There's literally no reason, no kind of connection to build off of for them to still like her. They never give it a reason outside of "we're in this together," and then the narrative is written in a way that's like, well, do you feel bad for Jax? Do you feel bad for her now? No, I don't. Maybe if the rest of them had some kind of personality outside of a one sentence backstory, I could see them interacting in different ways so it could feel more fleshed out. But no, everything gets condensed and just feels like a summary of what we could have had. If this show got 2 seasons, I think it could have been better. I think if it got even 2 more episodes, it would have been better. But Jax is not complex. Jax had the potential to be complex, but it wasn't portrayed in a way to be like that. It was just, oh no, poor me. Oh no, poor me. Ah, why do you love me? Haha. Haha, I wish you were dead. Now I'm gonna die. Like that was it. It was very flat. It was very flat to me. Why did they just get a couple of lines of dialogue in a bar scene for a backstory, and that was all we get from all the rest of the characters? We don't need a force feed a plot. We just need more of a plot. It just felt like a 2-page paper when it should have been a short novel. I think that Jax could have been very entertaining, and I could have really enjoyed her. I really, really, really wanted to like Jax because I related to her in the beginning, and I thought that there was going to be something there, and she just, I don't know. I think that it could have been done so much better. She doesn't feel like a tragic story to me. She feels like just annoying. She just feels annoying. And I think that the human counterpart, Mateo, I don't know the name, with knowing all the stuff that Jax went through and knowing all the stuff that the human version was doing, it feels more like a character altogether if I consider all of them to be one person. But man, dude, that was rough. I'm saying all this because of what happened with Ribbit and how Jax was just completely gaslighting her and completely avoiding her and isolating her emotionally and putting her down. It was extremely hard for me to watch. It was very hard for me to watch because she didn't deserve that. She kept trying to reach out to him and try to understand him, and he just kept shutting down. And I understand why, but to show no remorse in between doing things like that really, really hurt to watch. It it just felt like he was awful. It just felt like he was an awful person. I That really solidified my hate for Jax. I I don't care that moments to himself he was sad. I really don't. I truly don't care at all. Because to gaslight someone to the extent of them killing themselves, driving them to suicide, that takes a special kind of bad person. It's unforgivable to me. And it's even worse whenever everyone just kind of offers him a hand, offers him a hug, and offers him love after all of that. Because where was that for Ribbit? Back to Ribbit, this fun little gal, very funny, enjoyable to watch, enjoyable to be around, I bet. They were really close, her and Jax. She had religious and family trauma. She was funny. She was kind of just a plot device for Jax, just like most of the people in the circus. Um, I saw myself in her when I was watching Jax gaslight her. I think she deserved better. While she didn't have very much writing to her, she still seemed like a very cool character. It's kind of sad to me how Ribbit and Kaufmo, which just exist in a backstory, have about as much fleshed out writing as the rest of the characters, besides Jax. I think while Jax was telling people that she was crazy, I don't think that was the only thing that made her isolate, but it was the main thing, like probably 70 to 80% of it. As someone that's been in a situation like that, I think that that comes from someone she trusted and she was close to. And when you lose something like that, you just kind of have no hope. She lost it, and that can be devastating. So I think she just wanted to fix whatever happened, but she couldn't because Jax doesn't want to make things better. Anyone else could have stepped in, but I think they probably just didn't feel like it was their place, or they were convinced by Jax to not step in, especially Ragatha, because he flat out convinced her to not talk about Ribbit ever again because of whatever influence he had over her. Everyone had a part in making her feel alone, but it was especially because of Jax. Oh boy. I think especially in the scene where Ribbit was opening up and Jax was just like, "Oh, is this your way of trying to get me to open up?" Like, dude, this isn't about you. She didn't even say anything like that. Why are you making it about you? Why didn't you at least offer some kind of "I'm sorry" or "Oh my gosh, that sucks"? He just he just did not care. He just did not care. He did not care at all. It was all about him all the time. So yeah, to wrap this up, I just think the writing fell because the characters were just summarized when they could have gotten more to them. I think that I think that there should have been more episodes like the one with Gangle where it was more centered on each of them, or at least just like having more time to have them interact with each other and have conversations and have just some kind of things happening so we understand them. But that didn't happen. Um, like Pomni is supposed to be the main character, and I feel like I don't even know her really. I think finding meaning in a meaningless existence is cool. I think that they really drove the point home of like it's important to not run away from yourself or problems because it helps no one, and you really only have each other sometimes. Life can be a prison, but you don't have to be a prison. The people around you don't have to be in prison. And overall, this is a good show. It's good. Could have been a lot better, but I do really like this show. And with that, I will leave. Thanks for watching. And if you have anything else to say, we can have a conversation in the comments and be nice to people. Bye bye.